AITA for refusing to leave our home so my girlfriend's ex could move in. I'm Ronnie, 39, and after nearly 4 years with Alyssa, I knew the sound of her coffee order better than my own. I knew which side of the couch she claimed on movie nights, which takeout place she pretended to be tired of but still picked every Friday, and the exact tone she used when a simple conversation was turning into a test I was supposed to fail. Alyssa was 37, and for a long time, I thought we were solid in the boring, dependable way that actually matters. We had shared blankets in the living room, a group chat full of mutual friends, regular game nights, weekend errands that somehow turned into lunches, and the kind of rhythm where people stopped asking if we were still together because they assumed we were permanent. We weren't perfect. No couple is. But I never thought of myself as a jealous guy. Alyssa had a past before me, and so did I. Her ex, Devin, had come up before. He wasn't some forbidden name. I knew they had dated years earlier, that it had ended messily, and that she still had complicated feelings about parts of it. That didn't bother me on its own. People don't erase every old attachment just because they start a new relationship. What started bothering me was how often his name began showing up. At first, it was small. Alyssa would check her phone during dinner and go quiet. I'd ask if everything was okay, and she'd say, "It's just Devin. He's going through something." Then, while folding laundry, she said, "People really abandoned him when he needed support." A few days later, while we were eating noodles out of takeout containers on the couch, she said, "You'd actually like him if you gave him a chance." I looked over at her. "Have I done something to make you think I'm against him?" She shrugged without looking away from the TV. "Not against him. You just get quiet whenever I mention him." "I get quiet because you've mentioned him 5 times this week." She gave me that little smile she used when she wanted to make my reaction seem heavier than it was. "You only think it's weird because he's my ex. If he was anyone else, you'd call it compassion." "I didn't say you couldn't care," I said. "I'm asking why caring suddenly means I have to stop asking questions." She sighed like I had already disappointed her. That was the first warning sign I ignored because I wanted to be mature. I told myself I wasn't going to be the guy who made an argument out of a name. I told myself that if I trusted her, I shouldn't care that Devin was texting her more. I told myself discomfort wasn't proof. Then one Tuesday night, while I was rinsing plates after dinner, Alyssa sat at the kitchen table scrolling through her phone and said, "Devin is going to stay here next week. It's only temporary." I turned off the water. She said it with the same tone someone uses to announce a package is arriving. Not like she was asking. Not like she was opening a conversation. Like the decision had already been made, and my job was to absorb it gracefully. I dried my hands on a towel and turned around. "Stay here as in here?" "Yes, Ronnie. Here. For a week. He's in a rough patch." I waited for more. There was no more. "Where would he sleep?" I asked. "The couch, probably." "Our couch." She looked irritated. "Why are you saying it like that?" "Because we use that couch every night, and because you're telling me your ex is staying here for a week as if you've already promised him." I told him I'd help. "Before talking to me?" Alyssa put her phone face down on the table. "I knew you'd make it weird." I remember that sentence because it was the first time I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger. Not yet. More like the moment you realize the argument you walked into started without you. "I'm not making it weird," I said. "I'm asking normal questions. Doesn't he have friends? Family? A motel? Why does he need to stay with you specifically?" "With us," she said, as if correcting that word fixed anything. "Fine. With us. Why does your ex need to stay with us for a week?" She leaned back in her chair. "Because he needs help, and I'm not going to punish him because you're insecure." I laughed once, not because it was funny, but because my brain needed somewhere to put the insult. "So we're there already?" "There where?" "I asked where your ex is sleeping, and now I'm insecure." "I thought you were secure enough to handle me helping someone." "I'm not telling you who to care about. I'm telling you I'm not comfortable being informed that your ex is moving in for a week." Her expression softened, but not in a kind way. It was more polished than that. "If this is too much for you, you can stay at a hotel for a few nights. I'm not going to abandon him because this triggers something for you." For a second, I just stared at her. "So your solution," I said slowly, "is that your ex stays and I leave?" "You're making it sound dramatic." "It is dramatic. It's a few nights." "You said a week." "Ronnie." She said my name like I was a child interrupting a lecture. "This is exactly why I didn't want to tell you. You make everything about control." I wanted to say the ugly thing forming in my head, that she seemed far more concerned with Devon's comfort than mine. But I also knew something about Alyssa by then. If I yelled, the yelling would become the entire story. So I breathed through it. I'm not leaving to make room for him, I said. And I'm not going to have this conversation rewritten later, so anything significant from here on out needs to be in text or email. Her eyebrows lifted. Wow, that's not a threat. That's me being clear. No, that's you creating a record as if I'm some criminal. No, it's me refusing to be called controlling for remembering what was actually said. She grabbed her phone and left the kitchen. I stood there with the towel still in my hand and listened to the bedroom door close. The apartment felt too quiet after that. The faucet dripped once into the sink. My half-full glass of water sat on the counter. Nothing looked different, but everything felt like it had shifted 2 inches out of place. The public version started faster than I expected. The next day, our mutual friend Grant sent a message in the group chat. Not taking sides, but sometimes helping an old friend is just helping an old friend. I stared at it for a long moment. Maya, who usually hosted game nights, replied with a thumbs up and then wrote, "Trust matters. So does compassion." Sophie, Alyssa's closest friend in the group, added, "People can have a past and still be respectful in the present." Nobody tagged me. Nobody said my name. But everyone knew who the messages were for. I typed 3 different replies and deleted all of them. Anything I said right then would sound defensive. Alyssa had gotten there first, and she had framed the story in the cleanest possible way. She was helping a struggling friend. I was uncomfortable because he was an ex. Therefore, I was insecure. The part where I was told to leave my own home for a week didn't seem to make the first draft of her story. Game night was 2 days later at Maya's place. I almost skipped it, but I knew skipping would only make me look guilty in whatever trial was apparently happening without my consent. So I went. There were chips and bowls on the coffee table, salsa no one was touching, a half-finished board game spread out between drinks, and the usual background noise of people trying too hard to act normal. I sat beside Alyssa on the couch. She sat close enough to look united, but not close enough to feel like it. For the first hour, everyone acted as if nothing was wrong. Grant made jokes. Maya kept refilling snacks. Sophie avoided looking at me for too long. Then Alyssa rolled the dice, moved her piece, and said, "Careful, everyone. Ronnie thinks every man from my past is a threat." There was a small burst of awkward laughter. The kind people make when they don't agree enough to laugh fully, but don't want to sit in silence either. I looked at her. "Why would you say that?" She smiled at the board. "I'm just joking." "No, you're not." The room tightened. Alyssa set the dice down. "If you can't handle me being kind to someone, maybe that says more about you than me." Maya looked at her drink. Grant rubbed the back of his neck. Sophie suddenly became very interested in the cards in her hand. I could feel everyone waiting to see what version of me showed up. I said, "This isn't the place." Alyssa gave a small laugh. "Convenient." I got up, took my plate to the kitchen, rinsed it, and came back without saying anything else. That was when I stopped hearing an argument and started hearing a script she had already rehearsed. After that, I paid attention to the timeline. I didn't hack anything. I didn't break into her phone. I didn't stalk her. But we had shared devices because we had been together for almost 4 years. We used the same tablet for streaming, calendar reminders, grocery lists, and recipes. We had a shared travel account from trips we had taken. Our lives were connected in the boring digital ways couples' lives become connected before either person realizes how messy that can become. The first thing I saw was a calendar reminder on the tablet's home screen. Devon Week. It popped up while I was searching for a movie we had started and never finished. What caught my eye wasn't just the label. It was the creation date attached to the calendar entry when I tapped the reminder to clear it. Alyssa had created it 4 days before she told me Devon was coming. For days. That meant the kitchen conversation had never been a discussion. It had been a notification. The reminder wasn't proof of cheating. It was proof that the conversation had been fake from the start. The second thing came through our shared travel account. I received a bank alert for a canceled authorization from a hotel in our area. Not a charge, just a hold that had been reversed. I wouldn't have thought much of it except the travel account had a saved note attached to the search. Our stay option. I sat at the table staring at those 3 words. Not Devon stay option. R. She hadn't looked for a place for Devon to stay. She had looked for a place for me to go. I still didn't confront her that night. I wanted to, But I had learned by then that walking into a conversation with only emotion gave Alyssa room to rearrange everything. So instead, I texted her while she was in the bedroom and I was in the living room. I'm not preventing you from helping Devin. I'm refusing to leave so your ex can stay here, and I'm refusing to be called controlling because I won't accept that arrangement. I will not pay for a hotel, extra groceries, rides, or any expenses connected to him staying here. If you want to make a major decision that affects both of us, it needs to be discussed, not announced. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, she replied, I can't believe you're making me document compassion. I wrote back, I'm documenting my boundary because you keep calling it something else. She didn't respond. The next morning, she acted like I had slapped her with paperwork. She moved around the kitchen in silence, making coffee with sharp little movements. Cabinet door. Mug on counter. Spoon in sink. Phone face down. You're being cold, she said. I'm being clear. You're punishing me. No, I'm refusing to finance my own replacement. Her face changed when I said replacement. Just for a second. A flicker, almost too quick to catch. Then she recovered. That's a disgusting way to talk about me helping someone. Then explain why you looked for a hotel for me before you ever talked to me. She froze. I didn't yell. I didn't move closer. I just stood on the other side of the counter and waited. That was just in case, she said. In case what? In case you needed space. I didn't need space. You were planning space for me. She picked up her mug. Her hand was steady, but her voice wasn't. Maybe we do need space for a week. Define space. She blinked. What? Are we together during that week or not? Why do you have to make everything so rigid? Because vague rules only seem to benefit you. She set the mug down hard enough that coffee jumped over the rim. You're impossible. No. I'm asking whether you want a relationship or a pause button you can press while you see how your ex feels. She looked away. That silence told me more than any answer would have. The message preview came that afternoon. The tablet was on the coffee table. I was walking past it with a basket of clean towels when the screen lit up with a notification. It was a preview of a message from Alyssa to Devin, visible because her account was still linked to the shared device. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. The preview of Alyssa's message said, Ronnie will probably cave if I make it about trust. I stood there with the laundry basket against my hip and read it twice. One sentence, and suddenly every insult she had thrown at me had a strategy attached to it. Before I even moved, another notification appeared. This one was from Devin. Don't blow up your relationship for me. I'm not moving into somebody else's drama. I almost laughed, but there was nothing funny about it. Devin wasn't innocent. I wasn't going to pretend he had no idea his presence was causing tension. He liked the attention. He liked being wanted. He liked knowing Alyssa was willing to rearrange her life for him. But even he wasn't as committed to the plan as she was. To him, the week was convenience. Maybe ego. Maybe a temporary escape. To Alyssa, it was becoming a test drive. The last piece came from Sophie, and I don't think she meant to give it to me. She called me that evening. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Hey, she said too brightly. I just wanted to check on you. That's new. She sighed. Okay, fair. There was a pause. I could hear voices in the background, maybe a TV, maybe someone talking in another room. I don't want everyone fighting, she said. Then everyone should probably stop taking sides in a situation they've only heard from one person. I know. Do you? Another pause. She made it sound like you already knew what this week meant, Sophie said. My grip tightened on the phone. What does that mean? I mean, she said she just needed to know what it would feel like with him around again. I thought you knew that part. I sat down slowly. What it would feel like, I repeated. Sophie went quiet. Sophie, I shouldn't have said that. No, you should have said it earlier. She was confused, Ronnie. She wasn't confused when she told me to get a hotel. Sophie's voice got smaller. She said you'd probably react badly. She was scared you'd control the situation. Before I even refused? No answer. That was answer enough. After the call ended, I sat in the living room with the TV off and the clean towels still unfolded beside me. I thought about every little moment from the past few weeks, Alyssa defending Devin during dinner, framing every question as insecurity, making jokes in front of our friends, and looking up a hotel for me before she ever asked how I felt. It all fit together in a way I wished it didn't. She wanted the week with Devin close enough to test the old chemistry. If it felt real, she could move toward him and say our relationship had already been damaged by my controlling behavior. If Devin backed away, she could stay with me and say she had only tried to help someone. If I exploded, she could point to the explosion and call it proof. I wasn't a partner in that plan. I was the safety net and the villain, depending on which one she needed. I spent the next 2 days becoming very practical. I separated personal charges from anything we shared. I canceled grocery add-ons Alyssa had put into our delivery cart that were clearly for Devin, including the energy drinks she hated and the cereal she never ate. I removed my card from the travel account. I saved screenshots of the calendar entry, the canceled hotel authorization, and my own texts setting the boundary. I didn't send them around. I didn't threaten her with them. I just kept them because I had finally accepted that Alyssa's version of events could travel faster than the truth. She noticed the grocery changes first. "Did you remove stuff from the order?" she asked from the kitchen. I removed things I'm not paying for. It was groceries. It was Devin's groceries. He's a person, Ronnie. I know. And he can buy cereal. She stared at me like I had become someone she didn't recognize. Maybe I had. Or maybe I had just stopped being useful in the way she expected. The backyard barbecue happened that Saturday at Maya's place. I went because Grant had texted me separately and said, "Just come. Nobody wants it to be weird." That sentence almost made me stay home. Nobody wants it to be weird usually means everyone knows it is weird and would like the person being mistreated to make it comfortable for them. But I went anyway. Maya had folding chairs set up in the yard. There were paper plates stacked on a plastic table, a cooler near the back door, and Grant standing by the grill like the smoke gave him something to do with his hands. Alyssa arrived with me, but barely spoke during the drive. She wore the calm expression she used when she wanted witnesses. For a while, things were normal enough. Someone talked about work without details. Someone complained about rent. Grant burned the first round of burgers and blamed the grill. Maya kept asking if people needed napkins, even when no one did. Then Devin came up, because of course he did. Grant, who had never met a silence he didn't want to fill, said, "So, is the Devin thing still happening next week?" Alyssa glanced at me, then smiled at the group. "I don't know. Apparently, kindness requires committee approval now." A few people gave uncomfortable little laughs. She continued, "I just think it says something when a person can't handle compassion." I set my drink down on the plastic table. Not hard, not dramatic, just down. "Alyssa," Maya said softly, as if she could feel the ground moving. Alyssa ignored her. "No, I'm serious. At some point, trust has to mean trust." I looked at her. "You told me your ex was coming to stay for a week, and if I didn't like it, I could sleep at a hotel. That wasn't a conversation. That was you replacing my boundary with an ultimatum." The yard went silent except for the grill popping behind Grant. Alyssa laughed once. "Wow, you're really twisting this." I shook my head. "What I'm not going to do is sit here while you tell people I'm controlling for refusing to leave so your ex can move in for a trial week." Sophie looked down at her plate. Maya stopped pretending to organize napkins. Grant's face changed in that blunt, delayed way of his, like he was replaying every comment he had made and realizing he had been loud with only half the facts. Alyssa's smile tightened. "A trial week? Listen to yourself. You wanted space without defining whether we were together. You looked up hotels for me before you told me he was coming. You told Devin I'd probably cave if you made it about trust." Her eyes flashed. "You read my messages?" "No. Your message preview came up on the shared tablet. So did his reply telling you not to blow up your relationship for him?" Someone inhaled sharply. "I don't know who. I didn't pull out my phone. I didn't read the screenshots. I didn't turn the barbecue into a courtroom. I had said enough for the missing piece to land." Alyssa's voice dropped. "If you embarrass me over this, that's on you." I almost smiled because the sentence was so familiar. Even exposed, she was still trying to hand me responsibility for the consequences. "You started this here," I said. "I'm just done being the only person expected to stay quiet." Then I turned to Maya. "Thanks for having me. I'm going to head out." Maya looked like she wanted to say something, but all she managed was, "Okay." Grant stepped away from the grill. "Ronnie." I shook my head. "Not here." I left before my voice could catch. Before anger could turn me into the version Alyssa had been describing. Before staying gave her the explosion she had been waiting to retell. When I got home, I sent one message to the group chat. "Just to clear this up once, I'm not stopping anyone from helping Devin. I'm not okay with being told to leave while Alyssa's ex stays for a week, and I'm not okay with being called controlling for refusing that setup. That's the part that keeps getting left out. I muted the chat after that. The private messages came anyway. Maya texted first. I'm sorry. I thought this was just jealousy because that's how it was explained to me. I should have asked you directly. I stared at that one for a while before replying. Thank you. I appreciate it. Grant was next. I should have kept my mouth shut. I heard one version and acted like I had the whole story. That was probably the closest Grant ever got to a full apology, but I accepted it. Sophie didn't apologize, exactly. She sent one message late that night. She made it sound like you already knew what this week meant. I'm sorry I didn't say anything sooner. I didn't respond to that one. Not because I hated her. I just had nothing useful to say. Not everyone suddenly became fair. A couple of people went quiet. One friend posted some vague quote about relationships requiring trust, then deleted it an hour later. The group chat didn't turn into a dramatic confession scene where everyone lined up to condemn Alyssa. Real life is usually more awkward than that. People just stopped repeating her version so confidently. That was enough. Devin backed out the next day. I know because Alyssa told me by throwing her phone onto the couch and saying, "Happy now?" I was standing near the front door, sorting keys from the little bowl we kept there. About what? He's not coming. I looked at her. She crossed her arms. You made it so uncomfortable that he doesn't want to be involved. Sounds like Devin made a decision. She scoffed. Don't act like you didn't want this. I didn't answer right away. Her phone buzzed again on the couch. She grabbed it, read the screen, and looked away. Was that him? I asked. She said nothing. What did he say? It doesn't matter. Then it won't matter if you say it. Her jaw tightened. He said he's not sleeping under the roof of a relationship I'm trying to blow up. He said I need to figure my situation out without him. There it was. Not noble, not romantic, not even especially kind. Self-protective. Devin liked being wanted, but he didn't want the bill when the damage became visible. Alyssa lost the ex's attention and the victim role in the same weekend. The final conversation happened in the kitchen because somehow every important conversation in that relationship ended up there. The same counter, the same sink, the same mugs, the same little plant by the window that Alyssa always forgot to water and I always quietly saved. She stood across from me with red eyes and a hard voice. You humiliated me in front of everyone. No, I said. You put me on trial in front of everyone. I finally stopped acting like the charges were real. I was trying to help someone. Then you should have helped him without turning me into the obstacle your story needed. You made it sound like I was cheating. I didn't say you cheated. I said you planned a week with your ex, told me to leave if I didn't like it, and called me insecure when I refused. Her mouth trembled, but her voice stayed sharp. You never trusted me. That's not true. It is true. No. I trusted you enough to ask questions instead of making accusations. You used the questions as proof that I was the bad guy. She wiped under one eye with the back of her hand. I was confused. I believe you had feelings you didn't know what to do with. That part could have been honest. She looked at me then, really looked, like she had expected anger and didn't know what to do with disappointment. I continued. You had every right to care about Devin. You had every right to have unresolved feelings. You had every right to leave me if this relationship wasn't what you wanted anymore. Then why are you acting like I'm a monster? I'm not. I'm saying you didn't have the right to keep me as a backup while making me the villain for noticing. Her face collapsed for a second, and I hated that it still hurt to see it. So you're just done? She asked. I'm done being asked to prove I trust you by accepting disrespect. She looked around the kitchen like the room might help her. After almost 4 years? After almost 4 years, you knew exactly how to hurt me without raising your voice. That one landed. I saw it. I didn't pack everything that night. I took what I needed first, then arranged to get the rest when we weren't both there. I didn't beg. I didn't ask her to choose me over Devin. I didn't send Devin a message. There was no point. He had never been the prize. The hard part wasn't leaving the space. It was leaving the routine. For weeks, I would think of something stupid to tell Alyssa and then remember I wasn't supposed to text her. I would order coffee and still hear her order in my head. I would sit down to watch a movie and feel strange taking the side of the couch she used to claim. That's the part people skip when they talk about boundaries as if they're clean and easy. Sometimes the right choice still feels like withdrawal. But the quiet after I left was different from the quiet before. Before, The quiet had been me swallowing my own discomfort, so Alyssa could call it maturity. After, it was just space. Painful, yes, but honest. Maya kept inviting me to group things. I didn't go for a while. Grant checked in once with an awkward "you good?" and I told him I would be. Sophie stopped appearing in conversations about me, which was probably the best apology she could manage. Alyssa tried twice to reopen the conversation. The first message said she hoped one day I would understand she had been under emotional pressure. The second said I had made her look worse than she was. I replied once. I did understand the pressure. I also understood the choices. I'm not discussing this anymore. Then I stopped answering. The calmest revenge wasn't exposing Alyssa to destroy her. It was refusing to protect the lie that was destroying me. I didn't win her back, and I stopped wanting to. I didn't need Devin's place. I didn't need the friend group to hold a vote. I needed to stop living inside a story where my boundary only counted if everyone else approved of it. Trust doesn't mean leaving the room so someone else can test whether they miss you. Maturity doesn't mean paying the emotional bill for somebody else's unfinished past. And love, at least the kind I want now, doesn't ask you to disappear just to prove you're secure. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.